hot like 100. Hello, 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 hello.
Loading, strap with the lyrics like I'm bowling. Keep pushing on, keep rolling. And then when I listen, but I told him one more time. Your favorite MC's bronze or silver. These raps here are golden. Cards on the table, there's no folding. Spit bars at the club, zoning. TikTok come to London, get ripped off. Man get pissed off when I start lift off. Sweet like flavors, cookie and biscuit. Round here, yeah, the bars I get ripped off. Picked up my song, yo, every time I tripped up. Little petty trending, the big rock. Me and my G's do everything mix up. Full circle, now everybody linked up. That's irrelevant, memory like an elephant. Keep it hard, but you know that it's elegant. Get mad, but always benevolent. Always moving up, just leveling. Constantly telling them rhyming, riddling. Cycle through these streets, I'm pedaling. Hibernating and boom, she's back again. Oh, cause a little fire on the track again. Turn the music up, vibe like an icon. Yeah, if you want buff, we can go psycho.
Okay, so let's talk about trying to build strength and build muscle using a full body approach. So it's probably one of my favorite ways of training. I've had some of the best results myself and with clients over the years following a full body approach to the goals of trying to get bigger and stronger. For me, it's extremely time efficient. You can normally get in and out of the gym pretty quickly, normally within under the hour. And for those who get bored quite quickly when it comes to training, full body training is a really nice way to kind of keep you stimulated mentally, because you're constantly moving through all the different positions. So when your goal is a bit more strength biased compared to necessarily just trying to build muscle, I really like to follow the premise of movement patterns rather than muscles. So I'll follow the principles of making sure each session I do a squat, a hinge, a push, a pull, a core exercise of some sort, which can include things like carries and direct abdominal work, and of course those t-shirt fillers, so arms and shoulders. So how I like to structure the week is normally session 1 is a squat focused session, session 2 is a bench press focused session, session 3 is a deadlift focused session, session 4 is a vertical press focused session, and session 5 is a pull focused session. So breaking my week out like this means I can focus on prioritizing my squat, bench and deadlift in the first 3 days, and then if I have time in the week to get in session 4 and session 5, I can focus on a vertical press strength bias exercise, and then if I can get a 5th session in, I can get a heavy pull also in. So that first exercise will tend to focus on rep ranges between 1 and 5 reps. Generally I don't go above that when I'm focusing on my strength stuff, so I can then utilize my other sessions in the week to get the volume work of that movement pattern. So for instance, with a deadlift, I can do a heavy 3 deadlift like I did today. So I built up to 220 kilos. Now I can have some volume hinge work. So I could have some 6 to 12 rep range, say on a Romanian deadlift, say after my back squats on a Monday. And then I might want to get some leg curls in, say for instance, following that, say 8 to 20 rep range. So I can really get some good volume in directly to my hamstrings. So let's get into the rest of the session now. This is where I'm going to focus on the rest of my body. So I've done my hinge focus at the start, so my deadlifts. So now I've still got to do a push, a pull, a squat, and a form of midline, and of course my t-shirt fillers. So let's get into the rest of the session. Okay, so now we get into the rest of the session. For me, I like to superset everything else I do in the rest of the session, mainly just because I'm trying to get these sessions done in under an hour, and my main performance for the day is the first lift. That's why it's done on its own, and I give it my sole focus and attention and energy. So how I then like to pair my exercises on my deadlift day is superset my upper body exercises, and superset my squat and my midline exercise, and then superset my arms exercises to finish off with. So this first superset was some seated dumbbell shoulder presses paired with some single arm lat pull arounds. Now with our shoulder presses, I've decided to go with a seated dumbbell variation because I've put a fair amount of stress on my nervous system and my midline from my deadlifts. I then like to have a seated exercise that I can still push decent intensity, but I'm not worrying too much about too much stability in my midline or having to work overboard just to perform an exercise. So I can put enough tension through the exercise to get a decent amount of weight up overhead, but I'm not worrying about stabilizing my lower body and getting that involved since I've already trashed my CNS from the deadlifts. Now this is paired with a single arm lat pull around. I like to use a cable variation for my vertical pull in this full body day, mainly so Again, less stress on my nervous system. I'm seated, single arm, so the loading is going to be a little bit less, but I can keep intensity really high by still looking for that 6 to 10 rep range. So I'm still getting relatively heavy weight, but I'm thinking more about movement quality and getting a really good mind muscle connection. Now, scenes throughout my whole week, the full body workouts generally follow the same premise, where I have a strength piece focusing on 1 to 5 reps, then a heavy superset, which is normally 6 to 10 reps, and then I go into the more bodybuilding high volume reps, where I'm looking at 8+ reps for everything that follows that. That's mainly just so as the loading can decrease through the session, the intensity can increase, and I have less time in between exercises. Now, something you do need to bear in mind is when you are supersetting exercises, you are going to have to take into account how one exercise will affect another one. So if you're supersetting an upper body exercise with a lower body exercise, those effects you can kind of disregard because you can kind of get through it. But when you're pairing an antagonist, so something like a push and a pull, you do have to take into consideration how much is this push going to be affected by the pull, and it does depend on the choice of exercise. So using this as an example, the lat puller rounds are going to fatigue my lats massively. That's the whole purpose of the exercise. But now my seated dumbbell shoulder press is going to be affected because my lats stabilize my shoulders when I'm pressing overhead. So that means my shoulder press may be affected as I'm pressing. So it's a fatigue point I'm going to have to take into account for if I'm looking at wanting to say get really strong at a seated dumbbell shoulder press. I probably wouldn't pair it with anything. I'd maybe think about doing something like a row if I still want to superset due to being time efficient. So now that I've done my push and pull superset, it's time to get into my squat variation and my midline exercise. So let's jump in. So there we just had my squat and my core exercise. I had a Zercher split squat and I had a hanging leg raise with support from the barbell. Now, why Zercher split squat? For me, it's a really nice exercise because the Zercher position really challenges your midline. So I'm getting double midline in this superset. I'm getting an isometric hold and I'm also getting some flexion and extension. Now, I chose a split squat because throughout my week with the first 3 sessions, I make sure I have a bilateral exercise, so that's my back squat. I have a unilateral exercise where I have a split squat, so it's where I'm on the spot going up and down, and then I have a locomotive exercise where I'm lunging, where I'm either thinking about stepping forward or stepping sideways, reverse, wherever I'm stepping to, I'm thinking about moving. And then in session 4 and 5 of the week, I can choose to do another bilateral and another unilateral depending on where I'm working towards with my goals. Now let's have a quick tip about the Zercher position. I tend to see a lot of people complaining about how it pinches their arms and it causes a fair amount of discomfort. Now, understandably, it is a bit of an awkward position. However, if you place the bar properly in your arms, it doesn't have to be too uncomfortable. Now, what I mean by that is, what I tend to see is people have their arms bent in the position they want to Zercher in and scoop the bar up in that bent position. What that's going to do is pinch the skin between your forearm and your bicep. So rather than scooping up with a bent arm, start with an open arm, place the bar in your elbow crease, and then close the angle. By doing it like this, the bar then won't pinch your skin, so it'll be a lot more comfortable. Now, if you still find this uncomfortable, you can use, say, knee sleeves on your arms. You could also wear a jumper. Worst case, you could use a squat pad. The reason why I say worst case is just because of the foamy nature of it. It becomes quite unstable in the arms and it doesn't actually sit in the crease as well. So I really do recommend more leaning towards the sleeves or wearing a jumper when you're performing these. Now, let's talk about the abs on this. So the core exercise, I use hanging leg raises but with a barbell support. Now what this is going to do, this is going to really help me contract against the bar and get my abs to fully flex and fully extend. So similar to a feeling that you get with a GHD sit-up where you can really think about opening up that midline, this is a really nice exercise for those that say don't have a GHD, and you can get your abs into a fully flex and a fully extended position. Now with both of these exercises, now I'm in the volume phase of this session. I'm looking between 8 to 12 reps on both of them. So with the Zercher split squats, I went for a set of 8 on each leg. And what I can do is I can either increase reps over the weeks, or I can increase the weight and maybe stay at that 8 rep range. And then with the abs, generally I try to push more towards the top end. So I do try to aim towards 12, but on this day, I only managed to get 12, 10, 10. So it is what it is. I did get pretty much to failure, or where I was able to kind of push to the max while maintaining the position that I wanted to, rather than just doing sloppy reps. So now that we've finished the big movers, let's get into the t-shirt fillers, the main reason why we're here, the arms and the shoulders. Today's work is going to be some bicep curls, some overhead tricep extensions, and some lateral raises. So let's get into it. Okay, so there we have it. We finished off our full body session with shoulders and arms. So I went with an arm blaster dumbbell curl. One, because I get to use some support so I can really put all my attention into my biceps. I then went into the overhead tricep extensions. So I used a cable machine and I had some support so I could really feel like I was isolating those triceps and putting a lot of stress really deeply into them. And I finished off with those dumbbell lateral raises. Now I went for anywhere between 12 to 20 reps on these exercises. On all sets of biceps, I managed to hit 12. And then on my tricep exercise, the first set I hit 20 because it was too light. And then I was hitting 12s for the next 2 sets. And on the dumbbell lateral raises, I was pretty much getting around that 12 rep range also. So I hope this video helps you kind of break down how you might want to approach programming your full body sessions. So as a recap, just remember, we want to make sure we've got a form of squat, hinge, push, pull, core exercise, and of course those t-shirt fillers, so things like your shoulders and arms. Now you can tailor this approach to whatever your goal is at the moment. So for me, because I'm looking to make sure I'm maintaining as much powerlifting strength as possible, I use a squat, bench and deadlift as my first 3 sessions of the week. I then have my heavy vertical push session, and I have my heavy pull session for session 4 and 5 of the week, depending on what I can fit in my week. Now, as I mentioned earlier, after my first strength piece, which I go between 1 to 5 reps, the next 2 exercises will be between the 6 to 10 reps, and then every exercise after that will be the 8 reps plus. Now, I want you to remember you have a horizontal and a vertical movement pattern to make sure you hit in your full body session. So you have a horizontal push and a vertical push. So you want to be thinking about maybe things like dumbbell bench press, barbell bench press, push-ups, something where you can challenge your, say, pushing muscles in a horizontal plane. And then of course you've got your vertical pushing muscles. So things like shoulder presses using, say, dumbbells, barbells, something where you're getting the weight from shoulder to overhead. Now I'm a big fan of this style of training because you get to hit multiple muscle groups multiple times in a week, which means you've got multiple opportunities for stimulating growth. Now, if you've never done full body style training before and you're just starting out, you might get some pretty bad DOMs. So that's a delayed onset of muscle soreness in the first couple of weeks, mainly because it's a new way of stressing your body and you're getting used to kind of hitting everything every day. But I can promise you, after the first couple of weeks, you do get used to it, and then you start to be able to really push the intensity in those main movers. Now, something I want you to make sure you remember as well is over the week, you've tried to aim for about the 15 to 20 sets per movement pattern. So for instance, I try to make sure I do 15 to 20 sets over the week of my pushing exercises, whether that's vertical or horizontal. I'm pushing for 15 to 20 sets. So that might look like 5 sets of bench to start off in the week, and then I might have some incline bench, some strict press, and I might also have some dumbbell shoulder presses where I'm aiming for around 4 sets of each of those exercises. Now what that would mean is if I use 5 sets on my bench press and 4 sets on everything else for my pushing exercises throughout the week, I'd finish the week on 21 sets, which would be a nice lot of volume to go through my chest, shoulders and triceps. And obviously that's going to be the same for everything else in your body. So I'm a big fan of thinking of full body training in a way of movement rather than necessarily specific muscles. We'll save the specific muscles to the fluff work at the end with those t-shirt fillers. Now, if you want an already done for you program and you want to train 3 to 5 times a week, getting stronger in your squat, bench and deadlift, and you want all your sessions to be done in under an hour, check out my full body program here, where I give you those 5 sessions a week with your 3 priority sessions of your squat, bench and deadlift, and then your 2 optional sessions that you can get in throughout the week, focusing on getting you bigger and stronger. And of course, if you've got any questions about how to train full body, or maybe if you're just getting into it or you're thinking about starting my program, do drop it in the comment section down below. I'll be sure to get back to you there. And of course, if you got value from this piece of content, I'd really appreciate a like on the video, and it'd be great if you consider subscribing as well for more content like this. So as always, thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I'll see you next week.